And Heidi, that is your look at weather for this half hour.
Thank you, Cy. Today marks the one-year countdown to the 2012 Olympics in London, England. And an aerial view right there of Olympic Park with a 1 mowed in the grass to mark the occasion. More than 15,000 athletes from more than 200 countries will compete, and millions of spectators will be watching. In the midst of all the action will be our own athletes from Atlantic, Canada, all vying to make their Olympic dreams come true. Now, the experts at Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic are helping those athletes get ready, and Ken Bagnell of the centre is here to talk about the year ahead. Hi.
Good day.
So the countdown begins.
It does.
1 year into it. So what does that mean for our Atlantic Canadian athletes?
Well, there's a number of athletes now who are trying to actually secure spots in order to represent Canada next year at London. And so there's world championships in swimming, athletics, canoeing, rowing, a number of sports where there are Atlantic Canadians involved who, at this stage, are trying to qualify a spot for the country. And as it moves further into next year, the individual spots will be selected.
So how does their training regimen change when they're really in competition to try and get that spot on Team Canada?
Well, it's a very special time of year. It's a time when they have to actually be prepared to do their very best or actually exceed what they've ever done before. So there's strategies in tapering and not training as much actually, and having more quality time when they're competing, as opposed to overtraining, being tired. So many of these athletes have spent 8 years preparing for this time period, which allows them kind of that road to London to appear.
How many athletes would you say we have, roughly?
Well, there's probably about 30 to 35 athletes who are in that mix from Atlantic, Canada, who are trying to secure spots. And, of course, we have some of the traditional athletes who have competed at prior Olympic Games, like Richard Dalton in canoeing, Tracy Cameron, who was a medalist in rowing from Stewiacke in 2008, Adrian Power, a sprinter, Jane Romble from New Brunswick. So a number of athletes who have that experience and of Olympics and are ready to hopefully represent our country once again.
When Adrian Power was in here a few weeks ago to talk about her big sponsorship deal, she was talking to me afterwards about how she actually chooses events that she's going to compete in over the next year based on who else is competing in those events and where those events are and when they are. What's the strategy there?
Well, there are a few sports like athletics and swimming where there may be some of that choice depending on where an athlete thinks they'll excel. But in most cases, it's a very specialized training program, and normally it's one option for athletes.
Yeah, they're like the World Championships or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because basically I think as far as she was talking, she's trying to get the best time. Right,
absolutely.
So that's why it would matter as to who else is competing.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's it's a big decision when people like Adrian decide to switch events as she did, and a lot of training and some different training that they'll have to do in order to be among the best in the world.
The World Championships for a lot of these sports like rowing and kayaking, things like that, do they all happen around the same time?
Well, actually, as we speak, the swimming world championships are on, so swimming, diving, water polo, synchronized swimming in Shanghai. Paddling is coming up in 3 weeks, rowing in about 3 weeks, athletics
so
in 3 weeks.
So it is kind of all in one?
Yeah, this is a really big year because after this year you'll really have a clear idea who the favorites are moving into London and what athletes will likely represent Canada moving forward.
Now, when do local athletes find out if they make Team Canada?
Well, the team's actually selected near the end, the full team named near the end of June in 2012.
Wow.
But the qualification process will actually be happening from this point on. We have one athlete, Paul Tingley, actually, who has been named as a Paralympic representative in sailing already.
That's right.
So over the next month, or over the next year, more and more of these athletes will be named, and we'll certainly make sure that everybody knows that information when it it occurs.
Excellent. So busy times for you guys there at the Sports Centre, I would
Yeah, we're very excited. We've just moved into our new home at the Canada Games Centre, and it's an amazing place for athletes from across the sports to come together, to train, to talk, to get to know each other, and we're having a tremendous energy forming there, and hopefully down the road that's going to have an impact on results.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Well, Ken, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it. 1 year out from the London 2012 Summer Olympics, watch for Atlantic Canadian athletes there at Olympic Centre. We're going to take a break here on Breakfast Television. We'll be back in 2 minutes. It's 7:51.